U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick has pretty good reason to look concerned when asked about the impact of Trump's tariffs.
Because they're patriots. I think I give tremendous credit to that judge. And now it's going to the Supreme Court. Now we're going to be asking for early admittance. We're going tomorrow, and we're going to ask for an expedited ruling because, when you look at the stock market's down today, the stock market's down because of that, because the stock market needs the tariffs. They want the tariffs. If you look at AI, all of those, all of that money that's going to be invested, trillions and trillions of dollars, the biggest thing, bigger than the internet, I suspect. It's the internet plus 3 or 4 other things combined. We are leading very substantially with AI. We're leading because of tariffs. We're leading because of talent, and this is where they'd like to be. But without the tariffs, we wouldn't have a chance because we wouldn't be able to protect those investments of the companies coming in. So if you took away tariffs, we could end up being a third world country. That's how big the ruling. So we're asking for an expedited ruling.
So the tariff revenues are amazing, right? $700 billion a year. That's just net new money the government never had before. So you take that every year for 10 years, that's $7 trillion. And then what they're not counting is the way the president is smashing open these markets. You got every market, right? Japan, Indonesia, Vietnam, you name the deal he does, and he opens that market. That's going to have export growth, right? Never before has our ag and our industrials actually had access to these markets. We're meeting later today with the European Union. The president's goal, get those markets open for Americans to export to them. And that growth is going to pay for everything. It makes Americans richer. And, of course, our tax revenues go up the right way by Americans making more money by winning in business. They bring down their tariffs. It's not that you're not going to find a big, long, 250-page trading agreement. It's very simple. Bring down your tariffs to zero. Open the market to American exporters so that we can finally sell our agriculture overseas, finally sell our seafood overseas, finally sell our beef overseas. Our producers have Stockholm Syndrome. We've been so beaten for decades that we don't even know what it's like to sell internationally. Finally, Donald Trump is smashing open these markets. The European market won't buy our cars. Korea won't buy our cars. Japan won't buy our cars. But they sure as heck sell us cars. That is changing under Donald Trump. And that is what's so much fun about these trade deals. He's opening their markets for our ability to export. And he's got it asymmetrically. They are going to pay us to sell to us, the great American consumer.
Tell me your understanding of the Trade Expansion Act.
I don't have a really good understanding of the term. I may know the act, but I may not know its title.
You're not familiar with the Trade Expansion Act of 1962 that gives the president almost unlimited authority to impose tariffs so long as you conduct an investigation? You don't know about that?
Oh, my 232s, of course I do.
Okay.
Sorry, I just didn't know the title of the plan.
Yeah.
Of course I know.
Why didn't you advise the White House instead of proceeding under other statutes? Why didn't you advise the White House to proceed under the Trade Expansion Act?
The president chose IEPA because he could do it swiftly and he could do it sweeping in order to address the underlying problems that had created the $1.2 trillion trade deficit that was haunting the United States of America.
Have you read the opinion in VOS selections, VUS?
I have.
What role does the major questions doctrine play in that decision?
I am not a lawyer, so I can't speak to it with that kind of precision. That's a litigation that's under current investigation.
Are you familiar with the major questions doctrine?
Not offhand, but I did, of course, read the decision.
Well, about 3/4 of the opinion is on the major questions doctrine.
Again, I tend to not know the title. I know that the topic and the details of it, but I I tend not to focus on titles.
You mentioned the tariffs yesterday. You grilled Commerce Secretary Lutnick about what seemed to be some ideological inconsistencies as to why this administration is doing these tariffs, reciprocal and the like. Talk to us about that moment and whether, frankly, you have faith in the Commerce Secretary's ability to lead the president's tariff plan.
Well, it's clear that President Trump listens to Secretary Lutnick. So I spent the time I had trying to figure out where he's coming from. And I don't understand. I asked him point blank. I mean, my vision of reciprocity, which I think is a good thing, is to lower tariffs, if you can, to zero on both sides. And let there be a free exchange of goods and services. May the best product and the best service win. And I thought that's where Secretary Lutnick was going. But I asked him yesterday if Vietnam, for example, removed every tariff and every trade barrier, none, zero results, would we remove ours? And he said, no, that would be silly. So the obvious question is, who's on first? What's on second? Why are we having these trade talks? And I don't understand based on his answers. I'm going to try to have a conversation with him.
Well, you lead me to a follow-up question here. That same uncertainty is clearly reflected in the markets. Business leaders aren't sure where this is going. Foreign governments aren't sure where this is going. Can you get a sense as what is the point of these tariffs? Are they creating more chaos and harm than any revenue they may be bringing in?
Well, I know what the point is for me. It's reciprocity. But clearly the markets haven't figured it out yet. I mean, you know that. Unless you have an opium habit, you can see.
Forget about Amazon. If a company were to say we're raising prices because of the tariff, is that a hostile act?
I think if you go out of your way to try to make it seem like your price has changed when it's nonsense, okay? A 10% tariff.
Why is that nonsense?
Because a 10% tariff is not going to change virtually any price. The only price it would change would be a product that we don't make here, like a mango. You know, if we don't have mangoes here and we charge 10%.
Hopefully nobody's making mangoes.
Right,
yes, you're
correct. Or cocoa. Right? We don't grow cocoa in America. But what you're going to see is you're going to see us relentlessly do trade deals everywhere in the world. And when we do a trade deal with that country, we're going to say cocoa does not have a tariff. Right? Because this is the smart way that Donald Trump is doing it. He understands if you make a deal with a country and you give them the parts that they want and they need, they're going to open their market. Let us sell soybeans there. Let us sell, people won't let us sell chicken. They won't let us sell beef. It's all nonsense.
Lutnick might seem to be all in on Trump's tariffs in interviews like this, but even he knows it's unlikely the courts will let them stand. In fact, he knows it so well that his old firm is literally betting against them. Lutnick used to run the investment bank Cantor Fitzgerald, stepping down to take his role as Trump's Commerce Secretary. But the company, which now is run by his sons, is offering clients a way to cash in if the tariffs eventually get struck down. If courts eventually rule Trump's tariffs are unlawful, companies that paid import duties could apply for refunds. In a letter seen by Wired, a Cantor rep explained that the firm would trade the rights to those refunds for just 20 to 30% of what companies paid, meaning Cantor could pocket 70 to 80% profit if the tariffs collapse in court. Now, these kinds of law-dependent trades aren't unusual in finance. What is unusual is the Lutnick connection. Publicly, he's been calling tariffs a huge win for the U.S. economy and totally above board. Privately, his family's firm is setting itself up to make an absolute killing if the whole thing falls apart. The grifting truly never ends in this administration.